talking about the PlayStation 3 versus the Xbox 360. Let's get right into it. Alright, so for starters, the Xbox 360 released 1 year before the PlayStation 3. The Xbox 360 released in holiday season of 2005, whereas the PlayStation 3 released about a year later. And this gave Xbox a big advantage because it had come out before the PlayStation 3. But also, the Xbox 360 was a big difference in price. The Xbox 360 was almost $200 less than the launch PS3, which was coming in at $600, opposed to about $300 for the 360. And also, the PlayStation 3 came with a 20 gigabyte model and a 60 gigabyte model at launch. And so the 20 gigabyte model, also known as the B01, and the 60 gigabyte model known as the A01 were both backwards compatible with the PlayStation 2 and the PlayStation 1, whereas the Xbox 360 offered no backwards compatibility. But the big gap in price between the PS3 and the Xbox was a huge disadvantage for the PlayStation 3. But they were also losing money on the PlayStation 3 because it costed Sony almost $800 per console to create the PlayStation 3. But they were only selling it for $600 and $400. And yeah, so this was a big disadvantage for Sony. But the reasoning for the price gap was huge. So Blu-ray had just released at the time. This was in the HD era of television and gaming. So Blu-ray had just released not too long ago. And the PlayStation 3 was actually the cheapest Blu-ray player on the market at the time, coming in at $600, but it was still the cheapest version. It was the cheapest thing you could get Blu-ray on, plus you could play all your PS2, PS1, and PS3 games. So that was a huge advantage for Sony. So then, after the Blu-ray started to help Sony win the console war, Microsoft decided to go back this new format called HD DVD. An HD DVD, if you don't know, is an HD DVD. It's in the title. It was a competitor for Blu-ray, and the difference between a Blu-ray disc, HD DVD disc, is basically only who made them. So Sony was working on the Blu-ray along with a bunch of other big names, and Microsoft was left out of that. So Microsoft goes over and helps Toshiba work on the HD DVD, and the difference between those two and a regular DVD is that a DVD is read with red lasers, and a Blu-ray / HD DVD disc is read with blue lasers. And an HD DVD will not work in a Blu-ray player. And a Blu-ray disc won't work in an HD DVD player. But so what Microsoft did was they offered this add-on. It was like this little box. It looked like a miniature Xbox 360 kind of. You just plugged it into the back of your Xbox and you put HD DVDs in it, and it played HD DVDs. That's all there is to it, really. HD DVDs did not last very long because they didn't have big names releasing their movies on HD DVD as Blu-ray did. It was a very short lasted format war, and I wouldn't even really. Blu-ray had already won right out of the gate. So the thing is, like, they really tried to beat Sony with this add-on, but the PlayStation 3 already had Blu-ray built in, and that was a big selling point for the PS3. So yeah, all of the PlayStation 3 games are Blu-ray, and all of the movies you can watch on a Blu-ray player are compatible with the PS3. But if you try to stick a Blu-ray disc in an Xbox 360, you're not gonna have any luck. Another big thing would be the Kinect versus the PlayStation Move. Alright, so as we all know, the Wii came out around the same time as the PlayStation 3. The Wii was based on motion control with the remote and the sensor. And yeah, so PlayStation and Microsoft both tried to make their own version of that as an add-on with the systems to compete with the Wii. But neither system was really made for this. So the Xbox Kinect didn't come with a remote. You just control with your body, like move around, fucking jog and all that stuff. With the PlayStation Move, it had a remote similar to the Wii and a little camera, just like the Kinect had a camera. There's a little camera, a little sensor. You do stuff like the Wii with the remote. Yeah. And that's basically all that was. The Kinect and the PlayStation Move were both huge failures. They didn't gain any edge on the Nintendo Wii whatsoever. They were huge wastes of time, in my opinion. They weren't needed at all. And yeah, I get why they did it, but I don't like that they did it. Alright, so another thing is obviously the power. Right out of the gate, the PlayStation 3 is much more powerful than the Xbox 360. And here's why. The Xbox 360 did not have the cell processor in it. The cell processor was the big thing for the PlayStation 3. It was how the PlayStation 3 ran. It was how the developers had to learn how to develop the games for it. And that's a big reason why developers actually had a hard time developing games for PlayStation 3. And if you go look back, the non-exclusive games will look better and play better on the Xbox 360 than they did on the PS3. But the people who mastered the cell processor did great. Like Naughty Dog with Uncharted and The Last of Us, they did phenomenal. So yeah, the PlayStation 3 technically is the more powerful console, but it wasn't utilized to its full potential because developers didn't know how to use the cell processor. But another thing with the power of the PlayStation 3 is, this is pretty cool. There were about 1,500 original, well not original, fat PS3s, but not the original backwards compatible ones. There were about 1,500 of those that were all linked together for the United States Air Force, and they were all put together as a supercomputer for the U.S. Air Force, which is pretty cool in my opinion. If you want to go see some unboxings of those, actually, I found out about this from Ryan Mystic, and I'll put a little clip up right here, and I'll put the link to his channel in the description if you want to go check him out. So yeah, the PlayStation 3 is by far more powerful than the Xbox 360, and it's actually in some cases more powerful than modern gaming PCs, which is pretty crazy. So then that brings us down to the exclusive games. In my opinion, I've already stated this before in that video a few weeks ago when I was doing the thing with who has the best game catalog, and I chose the Xbox 360. And the reasoning for this is the Xbox 360 had more exclusives out of the gate, while the PS3 had more exclusives more towards the end of its lifespan. The Xbox 360 had Halo, Gears of War, Fable, all this great stuff. And PlayStation 3 really had Uncharted and The Last of Us. And God of War, that's another one. Yeah, I would honestly say it's about even with the exclusives, but for the sake of the video, I'm going to give the edge to Microsoft with the Xbox. I'm gonna give the edge to them. I think they did have a lot of great exclusives. They had a lot more exclusives at the beginning than the PlayStation 3 did. Alright, now let's get into consoles breaking down. As we know, the Xbox 360 had the red ring of death, the infamous red ring, while the PlayStation 3 had the less widely known yellow light of death. And both of these were a mixture of overheating, and when it overheats, the insides of the guts of the console, sometimes like one little piece will start to break down, and then the console itself just won't know what to do. It won't know how to boot up. It won't know how to do anything. So that was a huge problem with both of the launch consoles. They did fix this with slim versions of each console. They came out with the Xbox 360 Slim, and they came out with the PS3 Slim. And the PS3 Slim, I have to give the advantage to the PS3 Slim. It was much better than the Xbox 360 Slim. And in fact, the Xbox 360 Slim could still get the red ring of death, whereas I haven't really ever heard anybody talking about the PS3 Slim getting a yellow light of death. But yeah, I have to give the advantage to the PS3 Slim. I've been using the PS3 Slim my entire life, basically. I am 17 years old, and the PS3 Slim came out in 2009 or 2010. So I've been using this thing since I was like 5 years old, or like 6 years old. So yeah, I gotta give the advantage to the PS3 Slim. In this case, it was a better console. It was better all around. While Xbox didn't take anything away from the original with the Slim version, PS3 did by taking away the backwards compatibility with the PS2. But they had also already taken that away with the second wave of fat PS3s. So it is what it is. Alright, now let's get into controllers. PlayStation 3 controller, it's really good. I love it. It's just like the PlayStation 2 controller, pretty much. The DualShock 3 is the exact same thing as the DualShock 2, except it has the PlayStation button to go home, and it is wireless. They did come out with a controller with the launch PS3 that was called the 6-axis. The 6-axis didn't have the vibration and the rumble in the controller, as where the Xbox 360's controller was wireless and it had rumble and vibration in the controller from the get-go. One thing though with the PS3 controller is you can just plug it in and charge it. While the battery may not last as long as the Xbox 360s, you could plug it in and charge it instead of having to go get batteries or a battery pack, a rechargeable battery for the Xbox 360 controller. In my opinion, the Xbox 360 controller feels better, and the Xbox 360 controller might be my favorite controller of all time, maybe under the Series X controller. Both controllers are great for what they are, but as you know, if you have one of these, when you set it down, these things are super sensitive. You could be playing a movie and set this down and it'll pause the movie or fast forward it or do whatever it does. Xbox 360 didn't have that problem. Also, I like the offset joysticks on the Xbox controllers much better. Yeah, the Xbox 360 controller is just much better. Alright, now let's get into sales of the console. So Xbox 360 dominated the PS3 for a very long time, but towards the end, the PlayStation 3 did get the edge over Xbox and ended up winning the generation. If you count Wii in there, the Wii won. The Wii is one of the best selling consoles of all time, but the PlayStation 3 beat the Xbox 360 in sales, so you have to give PS3 the edge there. Now let's get into backwards compatibility. The Xbox 360 offered no backwards compatibility, while the first two generations of the PS3 Fat did offer backwards compatibility with the PlayStation 2, whether it was hardware or software. And I gotta give the edge to the PlayStation 3 because at least they did have consoles that were backwards compatible. The Xbox 360 did have games on the store from Xbox, but it wasn't like you could just stick the disc in there and play the games. It's really just, you gotta give the edge to the PS3. Alright, so all in all, which one is the better console? If you tally it up, what I talked about today, the better console is by far the PlayStation 3. And this is maybe just because of what I prefer. Maybe not, but I really think that the PlayStation 3 is the much better console than the Xbox 360. The Xbox 360 is one of the greatest consoles ever, but the PlayStation 3 just has that edge on it. It's the little things that matter, and that's where the PlayStation 3 wins, in my book. Alright, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you guys for sticking with me through. Alright, let me restart that. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please leave a thumbs up, like, subscribe, share, do what you gotta do, comment your thoughts on the video down below. Yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.